Hi, it's John Kranz with Consim Press, and this is part 2 of our video segment focusing on engagements against escorted ships. And we left part 1 where we had identified our targets as part of this convoy engagement, and we're targeting 2 of the 4 targets, a large freighter and target 1 swim lane, and a small freighter in the target 2 swim lane. And since we're attacking at medium range at night, using a night surface attack, we are going to be able to resolve our torpedo fire first before we have to worry about escort detection. So let's go ahead and now resolve the combat. So what we're going to do here is we're going to refer to the U-boat torpedo deck gun fire chart. And as you look here, first we notice we're at medium range, so we're going to be using the medium range table. And then we look for any modifiers that might apply for the torpedoes that are being fired. So first of all, the very first modifier applies. We're doing a night surface torpedo attack. So that is a -1 favorable die roll modifier. And just scanning through these other modifiers, I am using a G7A steam type torpedo, not the G7E electric, so there's no negative or plus modifiers there to worry about. So actually everything else in this table we're fine. So we actually get to subtract 1 from our die roll of 2d6 per torpedo. And you'll notice here a 7 or less normally will hit, but with the die roll modifier, 8 or less will hit. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by rolling for hits against the large freighter. So that is the target that we have here in swim lane target 1, the large freighter. So we have 3 steam torpedoes that we're going to go ahead and fire now. So let's go ahead and see what the end result is. So we're going to roll for the first torpedo, and we rolled a 2, and obviously a 2 is the lowest we can roll. It's a wonderful roll, which is an automatic hit. So we have 2 more torpedoes to check. So the second torpedo is a 7, -1 is a 6, 7 or less is a hit, so that's fine. And the third torpedo is another great die roll. 3 -1 is a 2. So all 3 torpedoes hit on the large freighter. And just for the, let's go ahead and just resolve for torpedo hits back on the combat mat for the small freighter. So we're going to let loose our 1 steam torpedo, and let's see if we have luck with that. So again, we're at medium range, so we roll the 2d6, and I rolled a 6 -1 is 5. That's again 7 or less is a hit, so all 4 torpedoes hit. Excellent news. So what we need to do now is, since that's torpedo fire, we need to proceed immediately to table U2, which is the torpedo dead chart, and notice that it is October of 1940. So the third row down is 1940, July through December, we fired G7A steams. So if we roll a 1 or 2 on a single 6-sider, that means that torpedo was a dud and did not detonate. So we're going to go through the same process now. This time we're going to focus on the 3 torpedo hits. So we roll once for each hit that we scored to see if it detonates. So let's start with the large freighter, which means we have 3 hits we scored. So I'm going to roll 3 times on the D6. The first one is a 3. That is fine. That's above a 1 or 2. So that is that detonated. Let's check our second torpedo was also detonated. And let's check our last torpedo that hit the large. Our last torpedo was a 6. Very good. All 3 torpedoes detonated for the large freighter. Now let's check the 1 torpedo that hit the small freighter to see if it detonated. And we're rolling it. We rolled a 1. So a 1 is a dud. So going back here, we now know that this G7A steam that went towards the small freighter was a dud. So that was ineffective. So no luck there. So that torpedo was spent, as are these 3 torpedoes. But these 3 torpedoes actually detonated against the large freighter. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and move these 3 steam torpedoes off. And we're now going to resolve to see what damage was done with 3 detonations on the large freighter. So let's go ahead and return to our charts. And now what we're going to focus in on is the attack damage chart. So we check under the torpedo column, and we check for any possible modifiers here. And first of all, remember that where we are on the chart is we're in the 4 damage space due to the tonnage of the freighter, so it can absorb up to 4 hits. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go and check to see. We're going to be rolling 3 times for damage, and there is no modifier in this case, so we're going to go ahead and roll for the first torpedo. Was a 3. That's 2 damage, so we could show that right away by moving the large freighter. It's taken 2 damage, started at 4, so the first torpedo that detonated caused 2 hits of damage. We can now resolve for the second torpedo. I rolled a 3, which again is 2 damage, and believe it or not, I don't have to really bother rolling for the third torpedo, although we can go ahead and, just for giggles, we'll go ahead and do that die roll, which was a 2, which would have been 3 damage. So obviously we sunk the large freighter. It's now here, cannot absorb any more damage, so we sunk the large freighter. So the way we would denote this on our log sheet, if we go to our log sheet, and I have a sample log sheet here that we can focus in on, so let me go ahead and scroll down here a little bit to the sample we have in the rules, and I'll zoom in here just a little bit so you can see this a little bit better. So the way this would work here is the way this log sheet would have looked. It would have been October 40. We're doing an Atlantic patrol assignment, so we would have the word Atlantic for October 40. And okay, perhaps we may have had a lone unescorted ship we may have noted earlier. The way I would have probably denoted this was how I actually recorded target ships, say for December of 41. So if you look there, we've got, for example, that little key code, which was the dice I rolled, like L for large freighter, and or in this case was the actual tonnage. So we have that. We would have that for the name of the ship that we basically engaged. And if we go back to our table, it was actually L42. So basically what we would have written is, if we go back here, just to recollect what we had, was L42 was the Zealandic at 10,600 tons. So what we would have is the Zealandic at 10,600 tons would be noted on our log sheet here. And actually when the first torpedo hit, we could have put a check mark on that tonnage value to indicate that it was damaged, and then we could have circled it once we sunk it. Since this was a normal patrol assignment, it wasn't a special mission, that tells us right away we've had a successful patrol assignment. So I could actually add the letter S at the end of this row because I've sunk a ship. So that's basically how we would log this. It would be under the Atlantic. I would have the name of the ship, the L for large freighter, and then the tonnage value as well. So that would be indicated on this roster. So we're actually not done yet, however, so let me go back to the chart. And what happens now is, we're going to go back to the combat mat, is we've just resolved our torpedo fire. What we have to do now is, going to the outline, we have to resolve the escort detection. So since we were at medium range to the targets, we now have to resolve the escort detection attempt, which is step 8 in the outline that we have here. So we're going to go ahead and go to the charts for escort detection. Oops, sorry about that. Didn't zoom in properly there. So let's try that again. So here we are. So we're at the escort detection. We're going to make this a little bit smaller so we could see it a little bit better and center it. So we're on chart table E2, escort detection. And what we're going to be doing is we're first checking for die roll modifiers. It's October of 1940, so there's no modifiers for the year. Then as I scroll through this list, okay, I used G7A steam, but it was not during the day, it was at night. So there is no +1 negative modifier for detection there. Don't have to worry about that. I wasn't at close range. It was a night surface attack, but please notice it was 1941 or greater would cause that modifier to apply, and it's only 1940. So actually there's no negative modifier for the night surface attack. Basically in 41, they had better anti-submarine weaponry and systems in place, but not in 1940, so I don't have a modifier there. And basically, when I go through this entire list of modifiers, none would apply. So what I need to do now for escort detection is do a straight up roll of 2d6. If I roll a 9 or greater, I'm going to be detected. If I roll an 8 or less, I will not be detected. So let's roll 2d6 now and see what happens. I rolled an 8. Very fortunate. Oh, very fortunate for many reasons. If any modifiers had applied, if it had been 1941 or later, which would have been that modifier in the first row right here, plus the modifier would have applied for night surface attack, so on and so forth, I would have had a much higher die roll, and it would have been higher. It would have been a 10 actually, which would have made me detected. But I went basically undetected, which is great news for me. So this is what it means when you have a convoy engagement. Since I went through and was not detected by the escorts, I can now, well, first of all, there's one thing I can do is I can end the engagement now. It's completely over, which means there's no possible action anymore against the convoy. The encounter ends, and I would basically go back to the U-boat display mat. I could end the encounter and just basically move to the next space in the Atlantic. Or what I could now opt to do, and this is only available against escorted ships, which we have, is I could decide if I want to do a following action. And a following action is the one action you're allowed to do to try to basically re-engage that same convoy we've just engaged, which basically gives us a chance to force another chance at combat against this convoy. There is in the rules something called additional round of combat, which I covered in the previous video, video number 7. But again, video number 7 was only, that additional round of combat determination is only possible against unescorted ships. And here we have a convoy engagement, which is escorted ships. So you can never attempt an additional round of combat against escorted ships. So if I go to the outline here, to show you what happened, as we looked at escort attempt detection, oh, by the way, I forgot one important step, which I could have done. I skipped it because I didn't want to do it, but I should have mentioned this. It's very important. So the first thing that happens for escort detection is I can decide if I want my U-boat to exceed test depth. If I do that, I automatically absorb 1 hull damage, and I get a positive modifier on the dice. But I did not do that, and I should have said that when I first went to escort detection table, because that is a decision you can make. You automatically take a hull damage for that, but it gets you that additional positive or modifier to help you out. But I didn't do that. I just skipped it. I should have mentioned that. So I roll for detection. Now, if the U-boat is detected, you go to step 10, which means you get depth charge. If the U-boat was not detected, you go to step 9. And so what happens is, under step 9, if all targets have been sunk, the encounter ends. Well, not all ships have been sunk. If any targets were damaged, I can go ahead and decide just to engage the damaged targets. But actually, there are no damaged targets. I sunk the one large freighter, and I did not touch the small freighter because it was a torpedo dud. So basically I have a case of no torpedoes were damaged. So if the encounter was a ship or convoy, I can attempt to follow. So you can see here I can roll a 1d6 and success on a 1 through 4. I also have this die roll. I believe we have this in the rules. So I'm going to go to the last page of the rules, and let me zoom out just a little bit to show you where that is. So following, yes, so on the back of the rules booklet, just to make it easier for you to find, we're not following damaged ships because none were damaged, so forget 9.7.6, but we are looking at 9.7.7. I can decide if I want to follow the escorted ships or the convoy, and I am going to go ahead and attempt to do that. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can follow this convoy successfully, which means I will be able to re-engagement. So let's go ahead and do that now. So what I'm going to do now is, in this following action, I am going to roll 1d6, and I have to roll a 1 through a 4 to be successful. I rolled a 1. I was successful. So basically what that means, since it's against a convoy and I was successful, I've just come up on the convoy again, but the target aspect completely changes. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to re-roll for a brand new roster of 4 target ships. Completely new target ships because we are engaging and approaching the convoy at a different aspect ratio than before. So it is not the same target ships anymore. I can forget about these 3 targets, for example, that were left remaining. I'm going to be rolling for all 4 targets again. And what I'm going to do is we're going to stop this video segment here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to roll quickly for 4 new targets, because what we're doing is we have successfully followed the convoy. The encounter continues, so I don't advance my U-boat marker to the next travel box. This counter continues because I was able to successfully continue following the convoy. So let's pick that up in the next video segment, which will be part 3.